They were promised the world.
Please be patient, but be assured we are doing everything we can to help you.
The Commonwealth and the state coming to an agreement like this is the biggest agreement of its kind ever.
I know people in the Northern Rivers are looking at their future today. I want to tell them there is a future for you.
But more than a year on from one of the worst flood disasters in Australian history, victims have been left devastated all over again. Just 1% of Northern Rivers property owners who lost their homes have reached a settlement under the Federal and New South Wales government's Buyback scheme. Of the more than 1,000 unlivable homes found eligible, just 13, yes, 13 have been bought out.
We were hoping to see a lot more action on the ground with some land releases for these people to be able to move to. There's the feeling that not a lot has been done in 17 months.
And those on the waitlist are comparatively the lucky ones. Authorities this week quietly halving the number of homeowners eligible.
Thousands of our residents in Lismore were sitting on the roofs of their homes, clinging to their children's hands, now being told that they're not eligible for any form of relocation and possibly not even a retrofit of their home.
Among those rejected, the family of Marge Graham, who tragically died in her home during the disaster as floodwaters lapped her ceiling.
The current of the water was so fierce that we couldn't get rescue boats to her.
Her house, incredibly, not considered dangerous enough for a buyback.
Just dumbfounded, you know.
Completely outrageous. It's not what we were promised last year when Dominic Perrottet came to Lismore.
If they announce these things, they should follow through and, you know, help the community.
The news, yet another brutal blow for the more than 2,000 people still in temporary housing and 300 holed up in emergency accommodation. Their lives stuck in limbo.
I just feel like we've been abandoned. I just feel like that her death is in vain and that we're left to deal with this by ourselves without any support.
Well, Hannah Robertson's home was severely damaged in the nearby town of Coracai and had thought her home was eligible for a retrofit. She was one of the many that had her application rejected in the last few days. Hannah, how are you feeling now about this news?
Look, for me, I have so much care and compassion for this community, and I know the devastation, I know what people are going through, and I just feel furious. I really do. There's a real anger. That's why I'm standing here speaking to you right now. I really feel that if I'm in any position to be able to bring some attention to this situation, that people need to know that this is an entire community, an entire region of people with no future plan. You know, these are people that have paid off mortgages all their lives and they've got nothing and they don't know what's next. So we need people to know, and we need the government to actually follow through on their initial promise to keep people safe.
Hannah, what did you lose in the floods?
So where our place sits, it sits on the banks of the Richmond River. So what happened in this flood, which is the first time in its 130 years, the Bungawalbin Creek overflowed and then poured towards the Richmond River through our property. And then the Richmond River broke its banks and came back on us. So our old house was in a whirlpool for several days. So everything that was contained in the house, of course, was lost. Everything in our sheds and on the property was lost. And the house and all of its infrastructure was severely damaged. So everything.
Hannah, what will you do now? Will you stay in the area?
To tell you the truth, we don't know. It's still day to day. All of our children had to leave the schools they were in. Their schools were all flooded. They all had to change schools. So to then go back to the property that was flooded once it's finally repaired means, again, a total change of life for them. So the flood changed everything, and the future's still very unknown.
Hannah, we've talked a lot about houses and physical buildings and getting them reinstated, but what are the kids going through? If you get back into your house, are the kids going to be okay living there?
Look, to be honest with you, I don't talk to them about it. I stay in the moment as much as possible. We took our children out of that community as soon as we could because we didn't want them to see that was a privilege for us to have somewhere to go. We didn't want them to see that. Most of my friends haven't been so fortunate, and I had a conversation just yesterday with a good friend who's just found out that they're not going to be getting any support. They weren't insured at all. Their child has been living with them in their garage the entire time they try and repair their property, and they've acknowledged that she's just not okay. and neither are any of her friends that went through this experience. So it's a major life-changing event for everyone in this community. The hardest point being is that we've all been in limbo for 16 months now, and now we're being told in a blanket approach that there's no support coming. The few people that were eligible for buybacks and have received them, that must be really difficult for them too, because the majority of their community aren't getting any help at all. And these are people on the same streets as each other. These are neighbours. One's been told their property's eligible for a buyback and they'll be getting assistance, and their neighbour's been told, sorry, you're not getting anything. So there's no logic and there's no humanity and no dignity, unfortunately. People just feel so lost. It's devastating.
Hannah, thanks very much for your time. I'm so sorry to hear about it.
Thank you.
We invited the Northern Rivers Reconstruction Corporation for an interview. They declined. They did send through a statement. It's on our website. Because we couldn't get those answers from them, I was texting with Janelle Saffin, who's the local MP, over the last half hour or so, and she called me during the commercial break. So she says that she and 4 of the local MPs and 7 mayors met the state's Premier today, and she says that the Premier acknowledged to them that this process isn't working. He agrees that it needs a reset. That's what Janelle Saffin says. 2 relevant ministers are being sent up there next week to review this. But you've got to say, I just don't understand how it got to this, given you're from that region. You know all the promises that have been made for the last 18 months. This is kind of nonsense.
And I know how devastating it is to drive through Lismore and see a city that has not recovered and may never recover if this isn't addressed.